Live from the apocalypse, I am Dan-O, Mr. White Folks, surviving on Worcestershire sauce and frozen orange juice. My co-host, fresh from explaining Kwanzaa to more white people, is K. Diggy. People don't understand our struggle with that living in Maine. There's a lot of people walking around who don't understand what Kwanzaa is and aren't going to look it up. Am I wrong? Am I lying? No comment.
No comment. I'm just said my one.
And they're always just like, oh, this Kwanzaa thing. I'm like, is this hurting you? What is happening? Good times here in Maine. Anyway, I make fun of it because I love it. It's fun. So we're this is the top 25 of the year now, and you made a good point to talk about the process of developing this stuff and how I do it, and I want to go through my timeline and what I do. So there's a big purge at the beginning of the year because I spend a lot of time invested in what happened during the year.
Mm-hmm.
New Year comes, like a lot of the stuff kind of falls out of your rotation.
Yeah.
Some stuff doesn't. Some stuff clings. But January, so basically, by the time March comes around, I'm putting together my first list.
Okay. As then you're like the March, so your first quarter. So all the releases in the first quarter.
Yep. And this is just a good organizational step. My wife makes fun of it. She thinks it's very stupid that I'm all year making these lists. But the thing is, if you do it in March and then you do it at the end of summer, August, whatever, September, you're in a good position where now you have you can, if you get stumped at the end of the year, you can search album of the year on your email and it's all there.
You see what now when you mention it like that, what I like about your list is it's dynamic. So it's not like a one-time, it's not like a snapshot at the end of the year. You're starting your list at the beginning of the year, and it's transforming based on your preference and based on what albums you think are good. So some will go higher on the list, some will fall off the list.
Yeah, and there's albums that like never like I was looking back at old lists of best albums that came out this year. I was like, shit, man. Remember Young Dolph, Rich Slave? That was a great album. Like, but it wasn't great enough because October was insane. And like, so November was insane. It was just like a lot going on. So we tend to be caught up in that moment. As an example, More Mother and Billy Woods released an album called Brass not too long ago. I bought it immediately. Listened to it once. It was just staggering. And I vowed to myself not to include it in a list.
See, right. And I think it's good to mention that because there is an inherent bias in the list. Because if a project was released like a few weeks ago or even in November, I think that's when the mother and
I'm terrible with dates, man, but
it was either November or October. So those albums haven't had the same amount of time to develop as the albums that were released early in the year.
Yeah, and by the way, the Brass came out in stages, right? Initially, it was buy it directly through Backwoods Studios. Then it hit Bandcamp. Then it hit streaming, right? So, and so when I listened to it, I was like, this is really, this is an important album and it's a deep album, and I don't have the time to focus on it while I am figuring out the year, right?
Right.
So I'm not going to include it. I don't feel like that would be fair to either the album or me, because I
Right.
feel like that's just saying like, wow, this is really good, so it goes up there, right? I haven't had time to live
Right.
with it, you know. Uh, so Brass is not on this list, um, and uh, yeah. So, but yeah, I do it in March. Do it like at the end of the summer. Do it every 3-4 months ish, uh, just to kind of keep an understanding of what is still my favorite shit. And so it's the same thing of my view as when I was in college, right? I would try and learn the text, learn what was going on, understand what was going on, and I really didn't study. Uh, I really didn't, because I was like, you know what, man? Once I know it, let it live there. Live your life. Don't overstudy. Get the out easy, you know. So I would you cram. So all year I'm making these lists. I'm thinking about what's going on. My end of year process is just either take a piece of paper, which I have around here somewhere. Oh, there it is. You can find it. The take a piece of paper and just start writing it from memory. Just no search engines.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, dog. Just pull up a blank piece of paper, and on that piece of paper, you write everything that has to be there on that list.
Hmm.
Has to be there, right? This list would be bullshit if it didn't have this album, right? Write it down.
Right.
You don't even worry about what number they are. Just write everything down. Get all your candidates in there, right? Once you have everything, or once you have everything from memory,
Hmm.
then you can start looking through the email for the past lists, looking at my Bandcamp for what I'm listening to recently, uh, looking at other people's lists, whatever. That's the last step, by the way.
Right.
I really want my list to be like 75% formed of candidates
Right.
before I look at other lists and say, oh, yeah, that album, you know? Because sometimes if I say, oh, yeah, that album, it means I didn't really like that album.
Right. And so let me ask, so when you're thinking about songs to put on the list, are you thinking about the quality of the song? I'm sorry, or album, when you think of albums to put on your list, are you thinking of, are you judging them by the quality of the album, or are you judging them by if the album connected with you or not?
So every year is different, right? For what like the year shapes up to be, you know?
Hmm.
So there's been years where some of my like, because sometimes it's about potential. Sometimes it's about what an artist can be, right?
Okay.
We talked about that before, where like they're really raw, but they're killing it anyway.
Right.
And you're like, man, what happens when they actually get polish? You know,
Right. Right.
um, that stuff happened. That's what with Jadena's first album. That's how I felt. I was like, ooh, shit! Like this is, you guys don't get this. This is great. Really, Amine's first album got kind of panned a little bit, and I was like, no, dude, this guy is gonna be good. Uh,
Right.
Sometimes I'm caught up in the potential of it. Other times, and this year to set the theme really has been about the design of these albums, right? Uh, got a chance to talk to Alaska Adams, and one of the things we talked about was how fucking good all the cover art is this year. It's unbelievable.
Right.
Some of the best covers
A lot of
I've
great covers
seen.
this year. Yeah.
Did you see the new navy blue cover? Did I send that to you?
No.
Oh my god! So go ahead and look that up. Song of Sage, navy blue. Look at that friggin' cover, dude. Masterful, masterful. So, and I'll go off on design while you're doing it. So the great cover art, great song titles, great album titles, great merch. Like this year has been thorough.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me see if I can make it.
Song of Sage, Navy Blue. It's unbelievable. And the album's great too, by the way. Dude, Most Def is on that album. Like that is,
Yep.
yeah, dude. So it's that album's actually on Zilla Rocca's end of your list. Um, so,
Wow.
but yeah, it's this year. There's been so much careful, calculated design of this music that it's been more cinematic than ever, and all the albums are different in very different ways. But
Uh,
the design is amazing, right?
yeah, I mean, I think COVID has it's cut out a lot of distractions, and it's really given artists, like the artists that are serious about their craft, it's giving them time to think and reflect and put more thought into albums than they normally would, like in normal times.
Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. I'm into it. And I have to I have to thank you. We've been locked in all year during COVID, doing this shit every week.
Yeah,
Every week. Uh, you have heard more music this year than you could have counted on.
probably. Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I've learned a lot, but honestly, I'm always fucking learning a lot. I am relentlessly learning a lot.
Learning a lot.
Um, so, but but I hope you've been able to enjoy the process of you know learning all these albums and relearning.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I'm glad that I mean, we covered a diverse spectrum of different genres of music.
yep,
So I mean that when you're able, so what I like about the shows and your list is that it's not just one genre.
right.
It's not. I mean, because we listen to so many types, we're able to compare them, and we're able to have like a good, healthy mix of genres on the year end list.
Yeah, no, King Vision Ultra, who helped design the whole Unknown Infinite, was was commending me on that of just like it's cool to have like a list with Dua Lipa and Boldy James on it,
Yeah.
next to Rico Nasty and just all
Yep.
the uh, just different folks. And I've never really been a separating it guy, like
Right.
in terms of the lists of the year, the end of the year. I love subgenres and I love weird named subgenres, but when it comes to the year list, it's all together. It's all together or
Yeah.
nothing. I don't make a best hip hop list. I don't make a best country list. It's all in one list.
Right.
Uh, so speaking of that, let's get to the list. Top 25.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm gonna go. I went number 25. So number 26 was Run the Jewels, 4, right?
Right.
Uh, and I was originally nervous about putting West Side Gun Pray for Paris at 25 over it, but I re-listened to Pray for Paris, and I feel very good about that decision.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was probably of the Griselda releases this year. I think Pray for Paris was probably the most important one. In my opinion, in terms of it showed what their ambition was. This was the first Griselda album where there was, Tyler the Creator, DJ next to DJ Premier production.
George
With
Bondo and just
George Bono, Rock Marciano.
yeah, dude. And
So
Freddie was Rock Marciano and Freddie
Freddie,
together.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Freddie. So I felt like this showed like, okay, we're trying to be a little bit bigger than what we're known for. This is our ambition to be like in the mainstream hip hop, be in the mainstream hip hop world.
and I don't want to make it seem like um he's this kind of Andy Warhol of rap, that he's like artsy dude, right? And he's like he designs and like, dude, on Eurostep he goes, man. He
Yeah.
goes, like he spits. He is no joke, man. He can carry a track. He's got a ton of personality. He doesn't need the guests, but he's
No.
excellent at putting them together.
Yeah.
Um, and to go from like this like murderer's row of hardcore, like, Betty Conway and the gang just going after it, to like French Toast with Wale, and really try something out. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's um, it just all hangs together perfectly. The audio snippets, it's a complete journey. Uh, the artwork already feels like something that lives in rap history.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was the art. The cover was designed by Virgil,
Yeah.
who's like a big. So I mean, it's ambitious. You could tell what he was trying to do with the cover, and with the music. Like he's trying to expand the Griselda sound.
Hmm. I'm with you. Uh, so that's 24. Burna Boy, Twice as Tall. I was listening to this
Uh,
before we got on, and it listed Diddy as executive producer.
wow.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Diddy, my favorite thing Diddy does is executive produce. No, I'm not gonna lie. Uh, he has executive produced. He's executive produced like uh, Rick Ross's best album. When he executive produces your album, it's fucking great. His energy, his knowledge of like big picture stuff,
Hmm.
uh, is, and you can feel that the bigness of it,
Right.
And I'm not crediting him completely. I'm just saying, if you make that step in your mind where you're like, I want Diddy as my executive producer, you're
Right.
trying for a bigness that he will help you with, right?
Right.
Um, yeah,
It's ambitious. I mean, when did African Giant came out?
last year.
2018, right?
Last year.
Well, that was last year. Yeah, that's wow. I mean, whew. I mean, to follow up African Giant with this album and I mean, that that shows his work ethic.
But it goes deeper, because if you so yes, to go from African Giant to this album, Twice as Tall, is a significant thing. But 2018's Outside is what broke him, right? Because
Oh.
he had a song on there called Yay. And people were searching Yay in their streaming services.
Hmm.
And they were accidentally listening to Burna Boy. And they liked it. It put him on the map. Um, so, and by the way, that album Outside is amazing. It is fantastic.
Wow. So that was 2018. So he's
Yeah,
released 3 albums in 3 years.
yeah, and I mean, he's a prolific dude. Uh, that one, is that the one with Streets of Africa on it? Yeah, dude, Streets of Africa, Heaven's Gate. Oh, so that's one of my favorites. Uh, so yeah, to go back to back to back, Outside is fantastic. Uh, then you get to African Giant, which is even bigger, more thematic, more developed,
Hmm.
uh, but somehow more danceable and fun. And then same thing, Twice as Tall. You've got Diddy executive producing it. You've got Chris Martin from Coldplay on it. It could have been bad, right? It could have been bad. He's got a Naughty by Nature feature in 2020. He's like, is this gonna work? It all works. It all works. Burna Boy
Yeah.
stays in his zone, um, and it's it's a giant album that's a whole lot of fun.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, do you have anything else on that on the Twice as Tall?
No, no, I think you summed it up.
Any placement that has struck you as strange so far?
No, I mean we've only done two,
True.
so
I'll give you that after all. Fat Tony Exotica. I wasn't sure Exotica was going to be on my end of your list. Um,
hmm,
as I told you when we talked about it, I didn't, I wasn't in love with all of it right away, and it was maybe part of it was just the extreme vision of it, right? That like no hotlines,
right,
no crazy metaphors, right? Um, no like, we're going in double time now. There's no like tricks to this at all.
yeah.
It
I
is
mean the tone of the music is a lot different from what I mean. If we look at the most of the other rap on the list, it's a lot different from the most of the other rap on the list. As in, it's like the music is very like he paints. Okay, best way to say it is he paints with pastel colors musically.
oh yeah. So
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
there is no sense of menace, right? To
Yeah.
like
Yes.
so that's one aspect of that. I would add to that and say he's so focused on characters and plot, right? And that he this album Exotica becomes like the Randy Newman rap album of 2020.
I agree with that. I agree.
Gambling Man, like all of it is a story, you know. Um, and I mean, these are stories that are just going to be burned in your head, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the lives of these characters. So never happens in rap because in rap you are always telling the story of yourself in the way that will make you look the coolest,
Right.
right? Uh, so to veer away from that and to like care about your environment to the extent that you make Jeremy Bixby and Back in the Saddle and just all these songs about characters like being down and out and pulling themselves
Yeah.
up, and I can't say enough about it. It's a really interesting piece of work.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can't disagree. I mean, it's interesting that it's this high for you on this list. But I get it. It's a unique album in a lot of ways, and I think like I can hear the effort that he put into it. And I always appreciate when I can hear the effort that an artist put into their work.
Right. I mean, it's you will hear West Side Gun albums that are as good or nearly as good as Pray for Paris, right?
Right.
He makes very good albums. He makes them a very certain way. You're not going to hear a rap album like Exotica, maybe ever.
Yeah.
It's just not done, you know?
Right.
Um, and good for him. So 22, we're talking about Midnight Express. Getting my rants. So there's just there's albums on this list that beyond the metrics of how great they are, like I just have a real affection for.
Right.
Um, I, albums have personalities, right? And sometimes those personalities connect with where you are. Midnight Express has a very specific personality. And have you listened to it?
I I think we listened to it. I think we talked about it a couple. I mean, we've done so many shows. I think we talked about it for sure. So it sounds vaguely familiar.
A lot of wrestling themes and all that.
Yes.
So the personality of it is, and really you can hear this from the first verse of Boring Gun Raps, which is the first song, right? Uh, Scorsese, where it just builds, it builds and builds uh, to the point where, like, in this seething tone, he says, you know, I'm every real and alive in one body. Um, and it's, it's so basically, I got, and it was cool to have Scorsese talk to Scorsese and him to kind of lay out the process of it. The personality of this album is Scorsese. You can go back years. You can find albums from 2014, 2013. He's been around. He's not new.
Right.
He'd been releasing very like densely like fun, like tough Philly rap, and it wasn't really connecting with people. It wasn't really like hitting the way he wanted it to hit. I know how that feels, but it's certain. I put out a book last year, nobody cared. But it's so. But Midnight Express, it is he actually what he did was this. He put out a remix album called Catch Point.
Okay.
And it was a bunch of remixes of songs that he had. Um, and it really caught fire. People loved it. There was a different energy to it, right?
Right.
Different energy. And part of it was Griff, Jason Griff, the producer. So he links up with Griff for a full project, calls in the favors, gets some unbelievable guest verses, right? Uh, first he's got so you got Sleep Sinatra, Eddie Kane, Zilla Rocca, Alaska, Curly Castro, Flashes Clayton. These are all people that rap their ass off, right?
Yeah.
They're at different levels of who they are, but they rap their ass off. So he gets them all on the right tracks, and he pushes, right? He's basically like, this is my moment, this is my chance. I've now got a bigger audience than I've ever had. It's time to win this, right?
Right.
And you can hear the urgency in that album. You can hear the urgency in Midnight Express. It sounds like a very talented person putting all their chips in and just going for it.
Yeah. I feel like you can tell the albums where the artist recognize that there's something at stake. Those are, I mean, that type of hunger you can really hear through certain art. Like you said, they're going to push their chips into the middle of the table, and this is it. This is my best effort.
Yep.
And that's what in 2020, that's my criteria for like a great album. You know what I mean? I think it's, when I hear this album, do I hear the sense of urgency? Do I hear the artist putting his chips in the center of the table, being like, I'm all in?
And it's the opposite tone of Fat Tony, in the sense that when Scorsese approaches a verse, he's not saying, I hope this works. He's saying, this has to work, and it will.
Right.
Making this fucking work.
Right.
And there are times in your work life or your regular life where you need that energy, right?
Yeah.
And so you put that on, and you're done. Death of Smoky Mountain. So, and shout out to everybody on that album. I got to tell Alaska how much I love his verse, and Zilla and Castro on the Survivor Series '92. Amazing stuff all the way around. Alex Ludovico, Secret Weapon of Insubordinate Records. He will have an album coming out. I will listen to it. Number 21 is Micaiah McCraven and Gil Scott Heron's We're New Again from February. Once it was one of those things where I was just looking through what I had been listening to a lot near the end of the year, and I was like, "Oh shit, did this come out this year?" And I looked it up, and it came out in February. I was like, "This is on it. It's got to be on it." Like, the New Here album that originally came out was very industrial and dark. It was made up by a British dude. I didn't love the sound for Heron. I really didn't.
Okay.
I don't love the sound in general, I guess. But Micaiah McCraven is really good. Is just really good composer, and made We're New Again into an album that sounds like it should be a Gil Scott Heron album.
Right.
And it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and it's the last living testament of one of the most important artists of my lifetime.
Yeah. I can't disagree with you.
Yep.
And I mean, the fact that it was released in February and it's still resonating with you 10 months later.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you were, yeah.
Like I said, that tells me what I need to know.
No, it was, I mean, We're New Again still gets a lot of burn in the car. And shout out to my kid who like can roll with weird shit like that. Just like the, morose spoken word of, running for 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Just going in the car while he's zoning out, We did an episode on this. I mean, you don't need to get too deep into We're New Again. If you haven't heard it, you definitely should hear it.
Yeah.
20 is Conway the Machine, From a King to a God.
Yeah. Now, how would you differentiate the two between West Side Gun and then Conway the Machine?
This Conway, and I understand if somebody was saying like pure album to album, Pray for Paris is better. Fine, whatever. Conway gets this spot because he released 3 albums this year that I really liked. And From King to a God is the best of them. Yeah. So trying to think what albums he had this year, because it was Lulu with Alchemist, right?
Right. That must have came out in like January, February, right?
What else was it? Because the other one that I liked actually better than Lulu was with Big Ghost Limited. Let me see here. But yeah, Conway the Machine. No One Mourns the Wicked. Love that one.
Yes.
Love it. But Conway really lit on fire everything he touched this year.
So does he? Now this is interesting. So do you put him in your top 25 because of his body of work, like his collection of work, and then the album that you chose symbolizes the collection of work, or did you put it in the top 25 because of the merits of the actual album?
Yeah, I wish I had a clean answer. This is a goofy answer, but I'm going to give it to you. So I was talking to Nate LeBlanc about like what are the voices that you're going to remember when you think of 2020?
Mm.
Number 19 on this list is Boldy James, an alchemist, Price of Tea in China.
Oh,
So those are two examples of two of the voices I'm going to think of when I think of 2020, right?
right.
Conway was everywhere, featuring everywhere, and he slayed all of those verses. He rapped with the best rappers you could think of and stood right with them. And I loved Lemons. Lemons, I thought Lemons was like the coolest of the singles that they had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the best Griselda single. Um, and Method Man was killing it on that. Yeah, I just really liked it. Price of Tea in China is really beautiful in the sense that it taught me how to love Boldy James again.
Right.
Um, and it really opened the door for him to have the year he's had. I don't know if you saw that, but I gave him honorable mention for MVP.
Oh no, I didn't see.
Boldy is the run. I would recommend everybody going to Free Music Empire and reading that breakdown. Some really good stuff on there about because have you heard Real Bad Man?
Real bad.
Real Bad Boldy. Real Bad Boldy.
Real bad. Vague. It sounds familiar. As I said, we've listened to so many. Like I was looking back. We've listened to over 50 or 60 albums just
Yeah.
this year, just for the show. And that, I mean, I think that's being conservative. That's probably being.
Yeah. And that's like I listened to a lot of albums per month.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically Real Bad Boldy came out after all that stuff. So Boldy James has Price of Tea in China, Major on McNichols,
Right. Yep.
Versace Tape, Real Bad Boldy.
Right.
All in 2020. And I did the entire honorable mention breakdown without mentioning Versace Tape once. Just ignored it. Didn't need it. But yes, so some of it is the voices of 2020, right?
Right.
He is a voice of 2020, Conway, and the rest of those albums are kind of ghosts pushing that album up.
Yep. See, I like that. I like that.
It's weird. It's all very spiritual for me. Number 18 is Rock Marcy, Mount Marcy.
Mm. And that lyric that came out last month too, right?
Let's see the release date on it. Have you listened to it yet?
I have not listened to it yet.
I believe I don't know if when it came out, but because like I said, everything comes out in stages or whatever, and so he sold it directly through his website first. You know,
Let's see.
November
No.
30th, 2020 is what it says the release date is. So I wonder if that is the general release date, and that he actually sold it to me before that. Because I bought it.
November 16th.
Huh?
But November 16th was the.
So November 16th to now that's enough time for me to get to know the album. I didn't love it at first. I thought it was a little too horrorcore sounding or dark.
Mm-hmm.
But Small Pro really put it in an incredible way. If you haven't read the Small Pro breakdown of his 5 favorite produced albums, he killed it. I'm definitely anytime he wants to write more, you can do that for me. He said anyone who hasn't thought about Rock Marciano, as one of the best producers of all time, needs to start thinking about it now.
Producers. Wow.
All that like drumless, hijacked, weird sampling, gritty New York. Like he's one of the authors of that, right? That's him and Ka.
Oh.
Remember, we talked about this, about how like
Right.
Zelda kind of gets credit for that, Derringer gets credit for that, but it comes from Ka and Rock, and they didn't have anybody but themselves.
Yeah.
They built that sound themselves. So Mount Marcy is magnificently produced. I re-listened to it, and it's a hell of an album. It really is. I didn't have time to fall in love with it deeply like I did Descendants of Man or Descendants of Cain by Ka,
Right.
which is 16. I got to sit with that all year and really know it and understand.
You're that at 16? Okay.
17, Perfume Genius, Set My Heart on Fire immediately. Yeah. More album titles should have immediately in them. So yeah, but it's gorgeous. It's amazing, and I felt like my original response was me being that I'm getting spoiled on Rock Marciano content, right? He's given me so much. That one year he had like 5 projects.
Yeah. 2018.
Yeah. That like at this point, I hope I'm not taking him for granted.
Ooh.
He's one of the best to ever do it. Like he is on my best lyricists of all time list. Yeah.
Because that's an interesting point. What's the best way to guard against that? And we're not just talking about necessarily music, but also, sports as well. Because I think there's a lot of people that we take, a lot of talents that we take for granted because we're so used to their excellence. You know what I mean?
I've got more on this, but I will tell you, the answer is to stay in the details. Stay in the details. So, Tom Brehan, really important writer for Stereo Gum, was really excited when the Rock Marciano came out, and he wrote this thing, and he's like, and I put in my favorite Rock Marciano one-liners. I've got a whole list of them at the bottom of the thing, and I was like, I remember doing the exact same thing in 2018. Yeah. When I did his MVP write-up, the whole bottom section was like the best lines ranked, right? The craziest, awesomest shit he said. Right. You have to stay in the details of that, of like specifics. Get specific, like what does this dude do that other people don't do? What did he do on this song versus that song? What does he do on guest verses? Stay in the details, and you'll realize that you have something really fucking good. Yeah. Also, listen to a bunch of stuff, right? Yeah. Listen to a bunch of stuff. I listen to a lot of bad shit. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like, Rock Marciano is better than this. Descendants of Cain, it's Ka. We've talked about it. My guy.
I'm surprised it was low for you. I mean,
that will be explained.
Because I was thinking if I were to do a list, this would have been in my top 2 or 3.
And it was for me. It was. All will be explained on the 1st.
Okay.
January 1st. That'll be. Everything's got to be timed.
Okay. Now I got 2 more. The countdowns begin. I mean, gotta set my clock.
Telling you, man. Telling you. So, no, but wait, no, never mind. You don't need to wait for the first. What am I talking about? It's up now. No, 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 no. It was the 28th that I posted my favorite album of 2019. Right up. And as a big part of it, it talks about how one of the albums on this list moved Ka down the list.
Oh.
Took the place of Ka in December.
Okay.
This happened with two different albums. It's actually, I guess it's four different albums, right? The two pushing and the two going down.
Right.
We'll get to all the Perfume Genius, excellent album.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful,
Yep.
legitimately beautiful album. He's great. Perfume Genius is great. Jason is one of the most gorgeous love songs of the year.
Yeah.
I love it. It's what I say, like when I put it on, the music felt like an old play, like Peter Rabbit or something like that.
Right.
It's orchestral, but it's like there's an innocence in the sounds.
Right.
It isn't grit. So there's a vulnerability always there with Perfume Genius that I have a deep respect for. That is hard shit to do. Which brings me to number 15. That's the Bolt Cutters. Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, because I felt like we did like we did a halfway albums of the mid-year list, right? And we both had that like in our top, at least top 2.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying it's 15 now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What caused the drop?
I always knew that it wasn't my favorite Fiona album, right? I think I described it on our podcast as the really cool, knowledgeable sister of the one I'm in love with. The really cool, knowledgeable older sister of, the one that's just got me, bug-eyed. And
Was that, which one is that? Wagon Wheel?
Oh, that's Idler Wheel. Idler Wheel.
Idler
Wheel is the one. That is the one. That will always be the one. Bolt Cutters. I love Bolt Cutters. It is. I am happy for her to get these accolades, to rightfully so, to be doing like stuff with Shamika and getting the song Shamika. They actually like rekindled the friendship based on releasing that. They're going to do stuff together or whatever. This is all great. I'm really happy, and she's earned it. It's a smart, mature album. It just doesn't have the like incredible inventive compositional grandiosity
that you would expect. Do you think you hold her greatness against her in a way?
I don't think so. I think it's more of like a bluesy album. It's a kind of a bluesy album. Both kinds. And so it was, and I love it. I loved listening to it. A lot of this is not a knock on her.
Right.
It is an invasion of great albums. I didn't count them. Straight up.
Right.
You could never convince me.
All right.
I would have some of these albums over a Fiona Apple album last year.
Yeah.
I would have been enraged. But that's life, man. You stay open, you listen, and it goes where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we were also caught up in the fact that this had been had been her first album in a number of years. So that, I mean, that can, but then again, you know, I feel like once you become like a superstar or a legend or something, like once we know you're a Hall of Famer, I think we hold you at a different standard. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I feel like if this was just like some regular artist that wasn't Fiona,
right,
that would probably push it to like the top 10. But
I don't know. I don't know.
oh,
I mean,
okay.
maybe. Like what was it, the other one? The album that would be like, okay, I've got a comp for like, uh, if this was an album by someone that I had never heard before, but I fell for, what would it be? It would be Emotions and Math by Margaret Glaspie from 2016. Which I dug. I really dug, but it didn't go super high on the list. It's that kind
Okay.
of bluesy-ish singer-songwriter stuff. It's very good. Think about it this way. Don't feel bad for Fiona. She released her first album when I was in high school. And she is, and I am old now, and she is in my top 20. How many people
Still.
in my top 20 were releasing albums when I was in high school? Not a lot.
It's a good
Not
way
a
to
lot.
put it.
So she's had an incredible career. One of the best artists. She's going to get a lot of accolades for this. Honestly, because a lot of people are the other side of it. A lot of people will instantly give that bump. They will put a Fiona in the top 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not how I work.
Okay.
Everybody's got to earn the spot. Now, number 14, very close to my heart. Zilla Rocca, Chong Wizard, Midnight Suns.
Yes.
Midnight Suns. So another one that's just close to my heart here. And let me turn this around here so we can get the Midnight Suns pin. I will tell you. So, and I gave this rant last night, but not last night. They're all blurring together. Sunday to Alaska when I said I've got a Zilla rant in me, but I was going to save it for the albums of the year. And he's like, give it to me. My Zilla rant on his genius is he's the Lawrence Block of rap.
I don't know who Lawrence Block is.
Lawrence Block is one of the most important crime writers who ever lived.
Okay.
Important in several ways, right? Do you remember the Liam Neeson movie You Walk Among the Tombstones?
No.
They came out. It's a really important crime book about a detective who's like a former alcoholic and goes on to solve stuff. It's Lawrence Block was enormously important in crime fiction because crime fiction is usually like about cutting out the fat and like in a paragraph teaching you who the character is, right?
Right.
Block in that genre was even more terse, right? So the main character would be like, Yankees lost 12-6. You know, I'm in my underwear. All of a sudden, the mailman comes. It's just like straightforward, no bullshit. He cuts out all the fat, and
Right.
And I was talking to Nate LeBlanc. He was saying like he keeps bugging Zilla to write crime fiction, and I was thinking he kind of already does, right?
Right.
Like
Musical crime fiction. Yeah.
Sons, it's so terse. His verse is so direct that in one verse he can talk you through the corrupt housing market in Philly, the city councilman taking bribes, the journalists going broke, the politicians slapping strippers, and like get through all of it in one verse because there's no extra in it at all.
Right.
At all. It's just this complete, efficiency
Efficiency.
that goes into his verses. It's so beautiful. And the he did a really smart thing on it where he had his crew on it, right? Like Castro's on it, uh, Alaska's on it, the people that Prem Rock is on it, the affiliates, But he also, in terms of other guests, people, he mixed stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
He had Billy Woods, and he put Billy Woods on the track with Lord Juco. That's interesting. It was a cool sound, and it's one of my favorite songs of the year. Honest Living Crooked Killing. Malik B from The Roots on a song that's named after a horror comic book. You know, Nature of the Queensbridge affiliation on a song that's largely about how fake socialists are irritating. Millionaire Grammar. And like it's just brilliant. And it's just this weird, like the Sonics, Chung Wizard, the Sonics built it around these like the strings from like Hitchcock movies or like Japanese horror movies, and mixed that with these like drum breaks from J Zone. And so there's big drums, but there's still the spookiness, right?
Right.
And there's all kinds of cool instrumentation. It's big, but it's spooky. And at the same time, he's giving you the terse verse. Just, I love that record. It's lean and mean. It's one of those ones that's really close to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Zimmer in on that.
Yeah. I was gonna say I don't have anything more to say.
The other part of what made Lawrence Block so dope was he better than anybody, he could break down what made another crime writer special.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite things to read from him is intros on other people's books. Because he will like lock in and be like, everybody hated this guy when he broke. Because all of us took years to get where we are. And he just hit right off the bat. But you know why? Because he's fucking brilliant. And here's why. And he would just give you the skinnier, like he knew how to perfectly describe what made Donald Westlake great or what make any of these guys great. He just knew how to pull it apart and put it back together again. Still is like that. So that was the other part of the Block thing. Sun Little Aloha.
Yeah.
I owe a lot of my sanity to this album. Earlier in the year, there was a work project, and I was locked in a tiny conference room. This is before COVID, for like weeks. And I would come in and just conference room, and I would just hum I would just be humming music. People would be like, "What is wrong with you?" Beating on the table. And I was doing Sun Little's Aloha. I was doing albums from Sun Little's Aloha.
Yeah. Because this came out in February, right?
Yes. It was like early.
So another one that came out 10 months ago. It's still resonating.
Yeah. No, it's I think the book on that, yes, like if you listen to About Her Again, you'll think it's a cover of a famous song. But he wrote that song.
Yeah.
Like he's amazing. Those songs sound timeless. Suffer, Baby, and I mean, I can't say enough about it. That's why I was humming it, right? There was just something that wouldn't go away about it.
Yeah.
And it just stuck to me. It just stuck to me all year. The opposite of the Midnight Express thing of like urgency and I need this. there was just an effortless importance to the soul in that.
Right.
It's contemplative, he's got pretty cool lyrics, but he's able to kind of naturally toss it off, man.
Yeah, I mean, he has a good vision of who he wants to be as an artist, what type of music that he wants to make.
Yup.
And like you said, he's very comfortable in his skin, and you can really hear that through the album.
This next artist is someone I really don't have any ability or need to say this word unless I'm talking about this artist. It's Jungle Pussy, JP4. Number 12. I don't have a lot of. Can you imagine saying Jungle Pussy outside of talking about this individual?
I don't know what I don't know what context you would ever even need to say that.
Nope. Nope. Maybe if I was in the Amazon rainforest attacked by a cat or something. I'm trying here. So JP4 is one of my favorite. It's as much as I like rant about how much I love Midnight Express or Midnight Suns, the same with JP4. The exact same with JP4. I love it dearly. 10 songs. I love it from beginning to end.
Yeah, I mean, your list is 50 albums. There's not another album that you could even compare to Jungle Pussy.
No.
It's unique. It stands on its own 2 feet, and it's in its own space. You know what I mean? So,
and I by the way, I feel like it's a space with people in it, right? There's a lot of people trying to make sexual albums that are maybe surreal, like Rico's doing that. There's just a lot of people doing that. Even we saw that with Bree Runway a little bit, right? 2000 and Forever.
mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people trying to do like a little darker version of Missy Elliott,
right?
And I support it, by the way. Enjoy.
Get that on record. Yes,
that's a sound that I'm here for. I'll turn this hat back around. I don't like being the hat backwards guy. JP4 is different from those albums. How do you think it is different from those albums?
How would I? Okay, this is interesting. I think because I really can't. It's very different. I can't categorize this album.
That's awesome.
So when
right there's a big difference.
Yeah, like so when we compare it to Rico Nasty, it always felt like with Rico Nasty, like I could hear her influences. You know what I mean? So she was taking in the the people that inspired her or her heroes, and she was trying to make music in that vein, but with a little bit of twist to it, like kind of push the genre forward a little, kind of evolve it, bring that sound to 2020. And when I hear Jungle Pussy, like I don't hear her influences like that. Like it's wholly unique on its own.
I mean, and the way I would sum it up to try and give it a concise thing would be JP4, what puts it head and shoulders above a lot of albums trying to achieve what it achieves,
right,
is the darkness and the light are much, brighter or darker, right? They're much more extreme, right? The ends of those are more extreme. you know, a lot of these artists don't have a song that's as kind of uh, pop friendly and shiny as Out My Window
Mm,
while pulling it off.
right.
Um, or as all out spooky as Spiders,
Mm.
or as like tough ass gross as Stamina. I
Mm.
think if you're gonna compare Jungle Pussy to anybody, it's Cupcake.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. But then again, it's really hard to classify Cupcake's music as well.
Yeah. See, they both have like a real dexterity in how
Right.
they move through sexual subject matters. And like they don't just talk about sex, but it's linked to the world, right?
Hmm.
It links to the relationships. It links to the the mental health. It links to everything is connected. Um, it's when your sexuality is disconnected and at the forefront, that's when a lot of us start to feel like, is this really you, or is this a guy in a suit behind you?
Right.
Uh, but Jungle Pussy is really giving people like a full picture in 10 songs. That album is it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think the world of it. That is who I was thinking of when I said you could never convince me that at my end of year 2020 I would have Jungle Pussy over Fiona Apple. I would have been like, what? What? Um, but I mean, did it take you time to fall in love with that album, or was it immediate?
I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but I respect the ambition. Once it, for me, I I'll always give any artist that tries to swing for the fences, I'll always give them extra credit for that. And
You're really good at sitting back and saying, "This isn't my style, but of that style, good job."
yeah, or right, because I think most most genres of music you listen to aren't like I would say aren't your style or your thing, but you have to be able to evaluate them objectively,
Right.
uh, and appreciate. So once I don't even know what she was trying to do, but once I kind of thought about it and listened to it, I could hear her ambition. I could hear her trying to do her own thing, try to be something unique. So I've got to give her props for that.
Yep. Yep. Um, so number 11 is Teller Banks, The Grotesque and the Beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you've heard this album yet, but you should. It's fantastic. Um, Teller Banks is really an incredible talent. Um, and this album has so much in it. He poured so much into it. Um, and it didn't seem like it was that much of a chore. He's just gifted. He's just gifted.
Yeah.
And Ed Glorious did the production is great, and he's doing the next Sleep Sinatra album, which is awesome
Mm-hmm.
to hear. Yeah, I'm yeah, I love that album, and everybody should listen to it. Uh, Janae Aiko at number 10.
So now we're in the top 10. What distinguishes the top 10 from the other 40?
Uh, this is when we're talking about the top 10 are bulletproof.
Okay.
The top 10 are bulletproof.
Hmm.
There's no skippable tracks in the top 10.
Okay. Okay.
Everybody's this is beyond like I like your concept, I like what you're doing, this is unique. This is into the like shit, dude. You know, like we're comparing like 30 points per game to 28 points per game. Right? And we're like, all right, well, what are the rebounds? You know?
Right. That's a good way to put it.
So that's where we are right now. AOTY, by the way, was pushed down here to the number 10 spot
Right.
by the number 4 album of the year, which we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I was re-listening to it today. The second best deluxe edition of the year, Chilumbo.
Yes. It's a legitimate deluxe edition.
Legitimate. You need it. She locked in with her band. She really did it. Black Puma's Colors is the best deluxe edition of the year, for anybody who's wondering. Chilumbo is a heroically vulnerable album.
Yes.
Like heroically, you know. It's funny. I'm looking at this list, and I'm thinking of how many of these albums we just were like floored by when we listened to them originally on the State of the Game.
I mean, I liked that we knew. I mean, from the week it came out, we knew it was a big deal, and then I think over the year, Janae has really caught momentum, and I think she's what's the word I want to use? She's elevated herself to like that top tier of R&B right now.
Yeah, I mean, when she unlocked like the sexuality and like started incorporating it seamlessly into things, because I don't know if you've ever heard her interviewed.
Yes.
She's very flirty. She's very jokey. She is not who you think she is. She has a pristine voice, right?
Beautiful voice.
And so she used to sing like just really like honestly the Thunder and Lightning John Legend kind of thing. She could just do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But she really unlocked the prankster, horny person side.
Yes.
And incorporated it into the heartbreak. And it was just it really put that album on another level.
And she knew the correct balance to put into it.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, what I liked about this album is the versatility, the different perspectives. Like you said, there's like the very sexual Janae, but there's also the very vulnerable. There's the angry Janae. There's the reflective Janae. Like there's the mourning Janae. So she has all of these different perspectives and all of these different angles that she can approach things. But yet none kind of overshadow the other. Like you look at her I don't want to call it her spouse. We'll say her partner. We'll look at Big Sean. Big Sean, like he's able to do this as well, but then like his corny sexual jokes kind of overshadow everything in a way. And I think Janae has found like that she's walking that tightrope of being able to, you know, be kind of very sex, but yet at the same time still have that emotional credibility.
Right. No, it's to move to number 10 here.
Mm-hmm.
We're at number 10. Number 9.
Mm-hmm.
Shrapnel, self-titled.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look dead to camera here. Just say, if you made a best albums of 2020 list without Shrapnel, you didn't really make a best albums list. It's just a comedy bit. It's just a joke. You just made a comedy joke. Ha ha ha. There's nobody who likes rapping who doesn't like rap, who I've heard of.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, it's just you don't know it, which is cool. That's cool. But everybody who's heard it is like shit. Like
Yeah.
it's a hell of an album. Yeah. So um
I can't dis. I yeah. You can hear the love of rapping in the album.
and we talked about it like like the great groups are uh, are about that mixture of voices.
Right.
I talked to Alaska about how everyone in the Wrecking Crew is like Shrapnel's the best. Shrapnel's the best. Everybody, and they just know it because there's something about Prem Rock and Castro together that feels right.
Mm.
Prem Rock, I think I described him when I was talking to Alaska as like he sounds like the coolest bartender as a dope rapper. And Castro's just like uh just the most one of the most dangerous rappers alive. Like his hooks are insane. He can bring like a Jamaican flow into the session. He can flip deep references. He's nerdy dude. He
Mm.
can go comic books. He can sports. He can do what flipping and go pro black, on a Billy Woods level, and it's nothing. It's nothing.
Mm.
He's an all tool player, and um, that paired with Prem Rock slickness, uh, you know, was the yeah a more Iron Mike than what was it? Dyson, more Iron Mike
Mike and Dice.
than Eric Dyson. I don't know. It was great. I fucked me up. What do you? I don't know. Anyway, great. You got to hear it. Listen to it. It's awesome. And, whoa, where'd you go?
Oh, sorry.
All right. So number 8 is Open Mike Eagle, Anime Trauma and Divorce.
Yes.
We've talked it. It was one of the big release weeks of the year, right? With Homeboy Sandman's Trauma. I guess what I didn't expect, and this is what has kept this locked in. There was no question this was a top 10 album for me.
Okay.
Going into it because it's so fucking fun. It is, it's like one of those really dark comedy specials about a terrible time in the comedian's life, but the comedian is so fucking good and cares about comedy so much that it's actually really enjoyable to watch.
Right.
Because they accept the challenge of this is dark. How can I bring light to it? So you get self-care, you get like, Black Mirror episode.
I mean, I think to be a good comedian, you have to have perspective, and you have to be able to look at your situation and look at your situation, look at what you've been through, and extract material from that in a way that that you can communicate to your audience and get a reaction. And I mean, I think Open Mike Eagle, he does a great job here. Like, he's able to objectively look at the situation he's been in or what he's been through and find how to communicate that and connect with the audience.
And it's something that Alaska told me when I interviewed him originally, which was, I've stopped trying to impress people when I rap. I've stopped trying to say the coolest shit because it's honestly getting in the way of what I want to talk about.
Right.
So, and Open Mike Eagle is in that place in his writing where he is there's nothing to unpack about anime trauma and divorce. It's all there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's all there. It's all perfectly explained. It's, you know, and very few people can do that. Can make complicated stuff simple or sound simple or be digestible. That is
Right.
like a fucking Miles Davis talent.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
And I mean, it takes personality to be able to do that. Like what I love about this album is that he clearly went through all of these things, but there's no resentment. I did not hear any resentment in his voice. He was able, I mean, obviously through therapy and reflection, he was able to extract the lesson that he thinks that he was supposed to learn. And then he took that lesson and he shared it. He was able to craft songs that were able to share that lesson with the audience.
I'm with you, man. The yeah, no, it's a stupendous album, and it's another one of those albums we knew immediately was really important.
Yep.
An Unknown Infinite, King Vision Ultra, Amani, number 7. Shout out to everybody involved in that. Sway Jury, Masari, Moni Love came through. Uh, Stupendous stuff. Ari with the production. Um, I've said a lot about that album. It bumped Ka down the list. That's what you need to know.
Wow.
Ka is number 16 because of An Unknown Infinite taking that spot.
Wow.
If you want more details on how the fuck that happened, go to Free Music Empire and read my favorite album of 2020, and I go through the journey and get you into why.
Mm-hmm.
It's worthy of a read. The only thing I will say or add is just to repeat from the article is this album is my favorite album of 2020 because it sounds like what I needed to feel during these times.
Right.
I needed the state of mind. Like, the world is terrible in all these ways, but I will fucking survive it. I will fucking survive it. You better believe that.
Right.
And yeah, so there was Amani's voice is ringing in my head saying, "Y'all are addicted to trash narratives," and I was like, "Well, good point, good point." But I'm not alone here. When we did this the first time, I mean, it was pretty staggering, right?
Yeah.
We were definitely like, "Holy shit, there's a lot here."
Yeah. I don't disagree with it. It's not my cup of tea, but I understand why it's in
That's cool.
your
Uh,
top 10.
so King Cruel Man Alive, like
Ooh.
absolutely the soundtrack of my COVID-19. It hit for me right as things were shutting down and people were realizing it was terrible.
Right.
And his brand of misery was just perfect for it. It was just,
Oh man. I mean, King Cruel,
funny.
it's probably Man Alive is probably my favorite album of the year.
Wow, that's good stuff.
Yeah. It's the one I find myself going back to constantly. Like I was just listening to it last night. I'm very upset how underrated it is, but as you said, it came out like literally a couple of weeks before COVID really hit. So that I feel like albums like the albums that were released in like the weeks before COVID were kind of lost for a lot of people.
Yep, I'm with you.
Because we just had so much other, like at that time, like the panic was really kicking in, and we just had so much other stuff to really like focus on.
Yep.
And I mean those couple of weeks are like a blur for a lot of people. So I just felt like this album kind of got lost in it, but this was one of my favorite album of the year. No, I'm sorry, this was my favorite album of the year, and I find myself going back to it constantly.
And is it so? Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do that like whole. It feels like it was last year thing, right? And they
Hmm.
lose what they're talking about. Talk about what makes you come back to it as much as you do.
Uh, I think Archie has he's the lead singer
He's the guy. Yep.
of King Cruel. Um, I think he's got one of the most unique and captivating voices
Yep.
in music right now. Um, I just felt like his voice is so unique. It's like I think of it like a character in a story.
Right.
Like his voice is so unique to me. Like the perspective that he sings from is so unique to me that I know that I can't get that from anywhere else.
And part of it is his musical base, right? It's
Yeah.
like between jazz and alternative rock and soul uh, and rap,
Yeah.
right? It's between all that. It's just a big jumble of sonics behind him. His voice is always a little bit cleaner than I imagined.
Yeah.
It's like it's dirty and it's gritty and he does that and it's scratchy and it sounds like he's just kind of like fuck it, but then like out of nowhere, man, it'll just be the cleanest, crispest, most beautiful thing in this sad way.
Yeah.
uh, it's a real, I mean, he's really the fucking guy, man.
He really, yes, he really is.
It's so polished and so different. And I think you're right. I always end up saying this about rock is that like whenever good shit comes out, I feel like rock people blow it off.
Mm.
Rock people are dismissive of their own shit.
Yeah.
Hip hop culture does a really good job of being like, you know what? This shit is dope. You need to listen to it, right?
Absolutely.
Like it wasn't fucking CNN that made Griselda popular. It was hip hop culture.
Right.
It bubbled up,
Right.
right? It
I mean,
bubbled
the
up.
way I know Griselda is because you told me that, hey, you need to listen to this, and you listen to it. That's how I became a fan, and I told my other friend about it, and that's how they became a fan of
It,
rock. Like you're right, rock doesn't quite have that kind of word of mouth type of.
they don't get excited enough about what they have, right?
Right.
And they should be more excited about King Cruel.
Oh man.
If you want a future for like non-rap music,
Yeah.
you should really be hoping that King Cruel helps some of these people out.
I
Also,
mean,
yeah.
the story for me of the year is that like I heard this album, and then the day after I heard it, I was like, I need to see them live, and I looked up their tour. And the day after the first time I heard the album, I bought tickets to see them uh, perform. Unfortunately, COVID wiped that out, but
Right.
that's how impactful Man Alive was for me.
That's awesome. That is great. I'm very happy to hear that stuck with you. Um, Number 5, Small Bills Don't Play It Straight, um, with Elucid and the Lasso.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 is the one that knocked Janae out of the top spots.
Mm.
Live.e goes by Live. Couldn't wait to tell you. And I was warned. Like Pink Sifu warned me. He's great. He's a very terse, very straightforward individual on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did like one of those breakdowns of like this album is on pre-order, the singles are out, and it's really good, and you should check it out and bookmark it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that with Fly Seafoods. I just knew it was coming. Mind Right, one of the best songs of the year. She kills it on that. and I said it was something like if the like radio host from the Warriors movie had like Janae Aiko's chops, you know, and Pig Sifu responded to the review and said, uh, "Live harder than Janae, but thank you for the write up," you know. And I was like, more to come, like because I just after doing that piece listened to her in solo album, been like, holy shit, man! There's spoken word here. There's like soul. There's so many different kinds of songs.
Right.
Uh, there's no superstar power behind it. There's no like machine behind it.
Right.
Columbo, this is all just it makes sense. She's composing it all, and it's very personal and beautiful, but it's so varied. There's beat switches, and she jumps in, and it's just fabulous, man. I wrote a very gushing review of it, um, and it's top five. It's my favorite of the straightforward soul stuff, you know, and it's not even straightforward soul. There's a lot of different textures. So,
Right.
uh, number three, Boldy James, Sterling Tolles, Manger on McNichols.
Wow.
Yup, yup,
So that's two albums in the top 20 for you, right? 25 for you, right?
yup, yup. I mean,
From Bowling.
that is a good case for MVP for like runner up. You know,
Right.
he's doing it, dude. He's doing it. So, um, yeah, it was. This was a crazy one because I don't. I don't even. We didn't count on it. This came out of nowhere. He's been working on this since '07.
Right.
It's
And could it be because it lived up to the I mean, he released Tea for China at the beginning of the year, so we had high expectations for this album. And then when he released it, it it met your expectations.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it was. I didn't even know this was coming. Right, I was anticipating his Griselda debut.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then out of nowhere comes this, and it's like, holy shit. Um, by the way, shout out to me. I googled Free Music Empire Boldy James. You know what I got?
What do you get?
Trapper's Alley 2 mixtape review from 2015. That's right. 5 years ago, baby. Written by yours truly. Um, so yeah, I'll read a piece of it because I really like the Boldy James thing I did.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, let's go full vision here. Sterling Tolles. It's about Sterling Tolles. His vision for Manger on McNichols was to build the instrumentation behind Boldy to match the way the world ambushes him within verses. The same way danger strikes out of nowhere, cymbals crash, cellos take over, while Boldy fights to be heard over top of it all. It's the absolute encapsulation of the surviving your environment mantra that goes all the way back to 2013's My First Chemistry Set mixtape. Some of the vocals for the album go back to 2007, so no producer really got to know Boldy's voice and pathos like Sterling did throughout the process of sewing the album together.
Mm-hmm.
He used whatever traveling jazz musician was coming through Detroit for a quick punch in here and there. The end result, a haggard treasure map to the spirit of Detroit hip hop. Manger on McNichols lives as a sparkling, once in a career monument to the Detroit crime rapper's greatness.
Mm.
Review bars. So yeah, that's what I'd say about that, man. It's an incredible album.
Mm. So the production, so it's almost like you're giving Boldy James his props, but you're also giving the producer his props as well.
Yeah, it's tricky because
That's kind of what is that what pushes it? Is the production what pushes it over the edge for you?
One of the parts of it I say, like, it's one of the parts of that review is it would be one thing if this dude had like a legendary album with Alchemist and this album in the same year. That's already pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But to team with Real Bad Man, who honestly I'd never heard of that production team before, and put out another album that's killer.
Right.
If you have 3 dope albums from 3 totally different producers
Yeah.
in a year, that's not just about the producers.
Right.
That's about your ear.
Yeah.
And yeah. So read that stuff. It's good. One of the things Zilla said about Boldy was that Boldy needs like rich textured production behind him because his delivery is so cold.
Yeah.
And
That contrast, yeah.
right, you need that contrast, so you don't want him with grit because he is the grit.
Right.
Number 2, WizKid Made in Lagos.
Yes.
Yeah, dude.
And
yeah,
this,
dude.
yeah,
It's
I
me
had
and
this
you
one
for
in my top 3 too.
It's me and you for this. I
Yeah.
don't see this on anybody's shit.
Yep.
I don't see this on anybody's shit.
Agreed 100%.
Me and you were locked in, riding for this album. This album is perfect.
Yeah.
It is perfect. It is unbelievable. It's gotten me loving artists that I didn't even care for before.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was not a Damian Marley guy. Now I am. I have gone from this album into his back catalog with new eyes and ears, and I love his shit now. Like, Made in Lagos, game changer, dude. That's one of the best features her has ever done.
Oh, phenomenal! Absolutely. And her has had several features this year, but this was
Chilombo. She's on
Chilombo. She had I believe Slide came out at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
I think she was on something else, but it's escaping me now. But this was the best her feature of the year.
Right.
And I mean, this album was just. I think when we talked about it, I just compared it like you're getting in a boat and you're just going down the river. You just the river's taking you where you're going to go. You don't know where the end destination is, but you're just along for the ride and you relax. I mean, I loved this album.
I'm with you. We knew too right off the rip.
Yeah.
Right. We were talking about it. We're just like, fucking Made in Lagos, dude. What is like? It was on our epic album discussion, right? About like epic albums. It was in the Busta Rhymes week.
Yep.
Right? Same week. And we were all like, dude, this is the one. Like, it's just, it doesn't even feel like he has to try that hard.
Right.
Like, if it just goes from one track to the next track to the next track so easily, that it's gorgeous.
Great album.
No rough edges. I said at times it feels like yacht rock.
Yes, that's right.
Because there's like a weird saxophone that kind of lightly tickles the background and stuff, and you're just like, this is wild. You know, like, this is 2020. I mean, dude can do whatever he wants. He's just got a flow. He's got a cadence. It's once in a generation.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
I'm glad. Now Shrines is my number 1.
Yep.
I'll give a brief thing here because I just feel like, and Alaska said this. He's like, I don't need to read more about how everybody likes Shrines. Shrines is amazing. We all know it, right? I worry that we run the risk of sounding like we're just doing a popularity contest, right? That like we need to prove our love of this album with specifics.
Okay.
uh, and basically talk about what makes it great, besides just saying it's great. Honestly, as an artist, I always kind of hated people just being like, so great, and just walking away, right?
Right.
Um, so, specifics. This album, and I was thinking about this today, has like, and this is where I got the bulletproof theme. Like from track one, Bitter Cassava, all the way through to like Dead Cars, number 11. All time flawless, bulletproof run. You know how we talk about like, man, that album really hit its stride 3, 4, 5, or four,
Right.
5, 6, right? That run is 1 to 11.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying 12, 13, 14 aren't great. Eucharist is amazing. Like those songs are great. I'm just talking about that solid run.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, to go from, to go from all to like from Frida to Slewfoot to War Stories to Flava Flav about the nature of time itself.
I mean, it's relentless. I mean, it from the gate, the energy is there from the gate. You're not working your way into it. It's there from the moment you press play.
And I hit you with that. Maybe the best first line of 2020.
Just to just so, and I re-listened to it, and just the way he delivered it, the delivery is really what kind of
So
captured it.
it's Lord, Lord help me, I feel like the RZA. Like, what was the rest of it? This is what you have given me, or whatever.
Some yeah, some something to that nature.
But the exhaustion in that first line.
That's what I'm
Lord,
saying. The
I
way he
feel like the
delivered it,
RZA.
the way he delivered that line, that first line, really, it's like a joke. Like, he had the first line was the setup, and then the second line was the like the knockout punch. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like, and that was all based on his delivery.
Yeah, no, it's let's see here. Yeah, it's Lord help me, I feel like the RZA, like this what I get for helping you,
Yeah,
Edward. Um amazing. Amazing. Billy Woods is the best rapper alive. For those specific lines, right? Like I think Zilla might have been saying as a call culture that it doesn't, you don't have to memorize verses. He gives you quotables in that one bar,
yeah.
right?
What I'll say about this album is it challenges you. I remember like the time that we reviewed it, I was like, yeah, there's way too much going on here for me. This is like overwhelming for me musically. So it's challenging in a way that a lot of albums aren't, but not challenging in like challenging just to be challenging you, but challenges you in a way that makes you think, makes you have to research, makes you put in extra effort to understand really what's going on.
Yep. And I can't say enough about Elucid, man, because he could have definitely got lost in this album, with how crazy Woods is, but there's a real like uh, Van Morrison impressionism that Elucid's lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a lot of like, there's a sense of like uh, when I think of impressionism, I think of um, like sounds and smells and touch, right?
Right.
That like those paintings were about the texture of the world and feeling the texture of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, there's the first line of, do you remember we talked about Bitter Cassava and the first
Yes.
Woods line on it, the first line of the album? The first line of Elucid's verse is teaching my kid to throw the peace sign. God thumbs,
Okay.
double dare, green slime. Like he's uh, run for it, come through, big chief. Him bad kung fu. Like he there's like there's a lot of texture to it. There's a lot of sounds and sights.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Please don't call me king. No, we can't all have all the things. He's just really good, man. And like he, yeah, teaching my kid to throw the peace sign is instantly an image I can see, right? I
Mm,
can visualize. And he's like the master of creating that visualization
mm.
uh, throughout that album. Um, and adding that to what Woods does, Woods is like brutal decapitation of accepted norms. Did I describe that right? Um,
Yeah. Sure. I'm sure he would appreciate that.
yep. So adding that, the like the impressionism behind it, like on Unknown Infinite, like he Elucid has that scrape song, and he just starts talking about how his neighbor cooks chicken, and it's just like you can just live in that environment, dude. Like he just
Right.
really puts you in environments. Uh, I think the world of it, man. I think what they're doing is really put a lot of pressure on everyone. Everyone.
Okay.
Other rappers, yes, other indie rappers have had to come to this level, right? Shout out for Woods though, who just loves the game. He didn't have to go on Droog's album, but
But oh,
the song right before Odessa ends with like an audio clip of Woods being like, "That Droog kid is dope." Like if he thinks you're great, he's just fucking with you. He doesn't. He's not.
right.
One of
Very humble guy.
the power of Woods and the power of Elucid is, while what they talk about is dense, they're not trying to trick you or fool you.
Right. Yes. That's a
They're
good way to put it.
they're saying it in ways like you should get this, right?
Right.
And like so I remember somebody hit Elucid up online and was like, I'm frustrated because I like this, but I don't understand it. And he said, it's okay to love something you don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, I think great art makes you go to it. And I like albums that challenge us, not challenges in a way. They're not difficult, like you said, they're not difficult just to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
They're difficult because that's how, the creators created it. There's a lot of complexity to it. Yep. So to understand that, you have to kind of push beyond your limits of comfort. And, like you said, for sometimes Billy Woods says something that I have to stop the song and then I have to Google it so I understand what he's trying to say, where he's coming from. And then once I understand that line, it unlocks another line. And then I have to go Google that line. So we don't get things in today's culture. We don't get things that challenge us in a way.
Yep. Yeah. No, and I think that's like I said, the pressure. Think about the pressure Armand Hammer's put on everyone, right? Armand Hammer's put a lot of pressure on the audience. You could have spent your whole life bragging to everybody about how you love lyricism. You think lyricism is the best. You think sing-song rap is the worst. You hear bars. All of a sudden, you know, Billy Woods is breaking down Russian history in one verse. And you're like, shit, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
and you're Googling, right? And you're feeling kind of way, like I shouldn't have to Google. What is this? I know this stuff. It's putting a lot of pressure on fans to understand this music.
Yeah.
Because it's beloved. And if you don't understand it, you might feel a little embarrassed, right?
Mm.
So there's a pressure to catch up to it. He's putting a lot of pressure on critics because there's a lot of critics. I'll be honest. Any list with Eternal take on it, I kind of dismiss.
I don't disagree with you.
I think that album is not his best. I know.
I agree.
I know Lil Uzi Vert's catalog. I know that's not his best.
Agreed.
And if you think it is, you're just mailing this list in. I guarantee you, Megan's gonna be on top of that, and you're just kind of putting in like City Girls. You're just kind of like compounding this list of people that are out there, you know.
Right. The list becomes a vanity. It can be a point to it can come to a point where the list becomes a vanity project. You know what I mean? Like, oh, let me put this Lil Uzi Vert so you know, like, I've got this versatility in me. Like, I know what's going on. I'm hip to it.
Well, I think that's kind. I think there comes a point where the list is clickbait, right? Like the list is just clickbait. It's like, hey, you've heard of this person everyone's heard of. Well, I'm going to talk about him. So come over here, right?
Great.
So he puts a lot of pressure on him because if people who are in the know see a list like that, Armand Hammer's nowhere on it. We know the deal. You can't hide, right? You can't hide. You can't convince me that whatever, Big Sean's Detroit 2 is better than Armand Hammer's Shrines. That's not real. But I know what your deal is at that point.
It's a great way to put it. Yeah, there's some, yeah, that's a great way. I like that. I like how you broke that down because you're right. There's certain albums, if they're on a top year-end list, you know that something's not right. Something's not lining up here, adding up here.
100%. No, it's there's a lot of weird stuff out there, and yeah, no, it's so that's my journey, man. I'm really proud to go from Shrines to Maiden Lacos to Major on McNichols. Like I'm really glad to go, and then to Couldn't Wait to Tell You and Small Bill, and just to have this mixture of oddness. I'm pumped to have, Jungle Pussy Super High, and to be able to celebrate all these different kinds of voices and genre bending, and give it to me. Recommendation corner. Man, if I had heard this album sooner, dude, look up the freaking cover.
Okay.
Of the album Fly Moon Die Soon.
Fly Moon Die Soon.
That's a cover. This is a jazz album. I think it was released in September.
Oh, wow. I do like that.
Yeah, dog. And it is that kind of thing. We talked about it last time of like, is Thundercat jazz? Is this is like this kind of new post Thundercat jazz that's funky as shit, but like smart.
Takuya Kuruda.
Thick, beautiful stuff.
Kuruda.
I think Primo was repping him a lot.
Wow.
It was great. It's
This came out
beautiful.
in the late summer, August 5th, 2020.
It's beautiful. Just came up on an algorithm in Bandcamp. I celebrate the algorithm. Um, but yeah, no, fuck. It's dope. It's real dope. Um,
Oh,
I rep it. So we're gonna do more here and keep things going. Um, I'm so happy for all the people who are on this list for the first time,
oh,
and are like on the verge of doing more next year, and have built their fan bases this year. Um, what a productive way to use this horrible time we've been in.
absolutely.
To be able to lock in with yourself and just go. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the year we've had has been fantastic as well. Um, yeah, check it out. So,
All right.
uh, thank you, anybody who watches this. I don't know how many people watch this, but you're beautiful. I love your hair.